Hi, this is Nick Holmes from Paradise Lost and Bloodbath, and you're listening to The Dan Chan Show.
Nick, thanks for joining me on the show. How's things, mate?
All good, thank you. Yeah, great to be here. Cheers.
Now, your awesome Bloodbath new album, Survival of the Sickest, came out last week. It's an immense album, mate. How does it feel to have it out?
It's great, yeah. I mean, we've sort of been sitting on it for quite a long time, really. It was recorded kind of over like a year and a half, I think. So obviously we've had the lockdown, so that's kind of delayed everything. But yeah, it's just, we've been sitting on songs a long time. It's great to finally get them out there, and they sound, we're really happy with everything and how they sound, and the response so far has been fantastic. So yeah, it's all good so far.
So was it written during the pandemic? Is that, and was there a different approach with it being like travel restrictions and everything?
Yeah, we recorded it, I guess it was sort of during the lockdown period, and then the drums were recorded sort of at the beginning of the lockdown, and then I did the vocals nearly a year later in last November. So yeah, they were sort of recorded when we had chance. The lockdown restrictions weren't quite the same as they were in the UK. But for me to get over to Stockholm to record the vocals, I kept having to cancel because of the travel restrictions, and then eventually I could go over there in November to do it. So yeah, but yeah, it was kind of, and even the writing process again was very kind of spread out as well, But we had longer to work on it, and lots of retrospect, which is always nice when you're writing. So it turned out okay,
Do you find having more time is a help or a hindrance?
It's nice to have. It's nice to have it. Yeah, it's nice to have more time, but I think you could probably have too much time as well. I mean, you tend to get deadlines for things, and then you sort of panic a little bit. But once the ball gets rolling and the creativity kind of kicks in, then you find that you kind of get a bit of traction. You're getting somewhere, But at first, when you've got a blank sheet, sometimes it can be stressful. But yeah, a bit more time is always a bit nice, I guess.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I've been waking up singing "No God Before Me" the last couple of mornings. What a great album closer that is, and what a different track as well.
Yeah, I mean, Jonas wrote that. Jonas, our bass player, he wrote that whole song. Yeah, I mean, it's very, it's great. It's very incredibly dark, very different to the rest of the album. Well, it's just not as, but it's still got that kind of evil element to it, obviously. But it's a great closing song. Yeah.
Absolutely. I love this quote from the band. If there was a declaration of goods attached to this album, it would say Florida death metal exported from Sweden. Now, that's what fans want, right? I mean, is it fun creating these tracks?
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah. I mean, there's a whole kind of slab of our lives from being, I don't know, kind of, in my case, kind of, I don't know, 14 to 19, where the only thing I cared about was death metal music, and a hell of a lot of it was coming from Florida, and a lot of it was from Sweden, really. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it was an incredibly, we were so much into it and so passionate about it, and it's kind of nice to sort of relive it now. Really, we're reliving it. We're sort of enjoying the first wave of death metal. Really, before that there wasn't really anything.
So where were you drawing your influences from your 14 to 19-year-olds? But
I guess it was Death, the early Death albums, the early Massacre stuff. In my case. I mean, I'm a little bit older than the other guys, so I was kind of almost a generation prior, because it's 4 years difference or something, which in those days is quite a big gap, but now it's nothing. But I mean, Autopsy, Morbid Angel, and then in Sweden there was like Nihilist that went on to be Entombed, Dismember, and a lot. I mean, just sort of like say, I would say the kind of first kind of wave of death metal.
Yeah, sure. And can I ask, is the writing process similar or a little more lighthearted with Bloodbath compared to, say, Paradise Lost?
It's similar, really, because ultimately it's the end result is the goal. So I mean, you can have ideas that are so tragic that everyone finds it amusing, and then you just think, oh well, then you can laugh about it, and then scratch it and start. I mean, sometimes you can work on something for hours, and then you realise the next day it's utter pig swill, So it's the same thing really, but ultimately it's just about the end results. So that kind of, we're very serious about the end result, but you can still have fun getting there, but ultimately, you want it to be good in the end,
Of course. Now, you said in a recent interview that the lyrics you write are like another instrument. Can you explain this? I think you said you'd rather lyrics not make sense if the words fit or something like that. Can you elaborate?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, for me, it's just about when I've always listened to lyrics from bands I've liked over the years. I mean, Celtic Frost is a good example. I mean, I love the text Tom G. Warrior writes. The things he writes are brilliant. They're great lyrics, but I can't make any sense of them. I don't need to. It's just what he says at certain times. They just sound fantastic within the song, so it becomes part of the song's an instrument within the song to me. It's got it has the same quality to it. It's about how certain words are said. And the fact you can hear the words as well, which I love that aspect of particularly more extreme vocalists, when I can hear what they're actually saying as opposed to just someone sounding like a dustbin lid opening and closing. So it's it's about just how words sound, and they don't necessarily have to be in your totally black and white. Oh yes, this is about this. This is about this. I've got nothing wrong with those kind of lyrics either, but with death metal, it's all about creating an atmosphere, I think.
And do you enjoy being like random and extreme with your lyrics? And have you ever written something and thought, geez, that's a bit too much, I can't put that?
I think these days...
Or does death metal give you that freedom? It doesn't matter.
Well, no, I mean, I must admit, the 50-odd-year-old man in me now, I always think twice about certain things because, it always comes back on you, it's like, you could have done something 30 years ago and no one gave a and you'd never hear about it again. Yeah, but I mean, now it's, I think, we sort of laugh about even, the first word on the album is fucked. That's the first word on the album. We were laughing about the fact that we don't think there's any other albums that start with that word. So, I'm not sure if there is or not, but we just found that quite, because originally it was trapped. The word was trapped, but then I said, why don't we just change it to fucked for a laugh? And then we did it. And then I thought, is there going to be any comeback from this?
Come on, no way.
But no, so far it's it's been taken quite lighthearted. So it's
love it. Now, I enjoy the video Zombie Inferno. I mean, after all these years and multiple albums that you've done, do you still enjoy all the album release procedures? The videos, the decisions to be made, the interviews, etc. Do you still enjoy that, or is it like, here's another cycle?
I think if there's a lot to do, then it means people want to know about it. So I guess it's a positive. Yeah, I mean, if no one wants to know this kind of radio silence, and it's almost like, well, maybe So I mean, I associate being busy with it being people want to know about it. So it's all so in that respect, it's a positive thing. Yeah, I mean, it's like making videos. I mean, now they're not as important as they were. The MTV days. It's a very different kind of thing now. It's more a vehicle for the song, whereas before it was the song was a vehicle for the video, I think, a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So that aspect's changed. And a lot of younger fans don't even know about that, probably. Obviously the MTV days, it was very different with doing the videos. But yeah, it has changed a lot. But like I said, it's still, if people want to know about it, then it means it must be okay, I guess,
And the first song that got me into you was "Say Just Words" from the 1 Second album back in 1997. Right. Was that the biggest hit that you had at the time that was commercialized? Would you say?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, it got a lot of more
baseball, MTV. I can see your face in that video a million times.
Yeah. I mean, we did get a lot of coverage on the metal hours. I mean, like Headbangers Ball, but I mean, it got a lot more mainstream views as well, I think, around that time. Possibly the most kind of well-known sort of video around that time, I think. I mean, we've been playing that song live since we wrote it. We still play it. It's pretty much
it's a great track.
Possibly the most kind of well-known one, maybe.
Absolutely. Now, going back to Bloodbath, when you first joined Bloodbath, was it a yes straight away? And how did it come about? Obviously, you had two things previous. Yeah, obviously Peter Tadron as well. Was it an instant yes from you? We were touring with Catatonia in America, and I mean, we're good friends with the guys anyway. And when they asked me, I was quite surprised because I hadn't done that vocal style for a long time. Ironically, we just re-recorded some old material in that style with PL, which was just a coincidence. Which I wasn't sure if I was happy doing it anyway, even when I did that. But then when I tried that, I thought, well, maybe it could work. I was very flattered because I was very aware of Bloodbath as a death metal band, and I didn't know if I could do it justice at first. So it wasn't an instant yes, based purely on what I thought I could do with it. Really, nothing to do with the band. Then when I tried, I sort of did some sort of demos, and I eventually kind of got the feel for it, but I mean, for me, it's like I said. When I was a kid, it was such an important part of my life
the death metal scene, and it was just like putting on an old jacket. As soon as I got back into it again, I just loved it again. So yeah, and that's like nearly 10 years ago now. It's insane how fast it's gone.
I'm going to go back to your vocals in a second, but I want to ask this one question. Do you like the moniker death metal supergroup, and does that put any added pressure on delivering?
I mean, when I think of supergroup, I just think of like Bruce Springsteen and Paul McCartney. I mean, that's when I think supergroup, I just think Dave Grohl and people like that.
Yeah, I know.
People who play stadium.
Come on, you're getting guys from great bands from that genre and putting them together. There's going to be some form of expectation.
I don't actually give it that much thought, purely based on what I just said. I think, well, people, it just means people from other bands that are established, then that's fine.
Yeah.
I don't personally feel it puts any sort of extra pressure on it, really. But the fact we've been doing it for so long, we kind of know these old bands so much and the ins and outs, and we're so passionate about it when we're kids.
Yeah,
it's not. I don't feel there's any kind of outside extra pressure, really.
Yeah, of course. Now, back to your vocals. Over the years, you've adapted different vocal styles. Did you always know you were versatile, or have you had to push and find those styles by certain producers or yourself in the shower? Or in the car?
No, it was. It was always death metal, but I got to a point where I found it very one-dimensional. And the music was kind of changing. It was always quite melodic music and very extreme vocals, which was almost became the kind of how our sound, really. I think very much on the first few sort of albums. Like Greg's guitar was always melodic and my voice was extreme, and that became the kind of sound of PL. Which, but after kind of, I think the third album, Shades of God, I'd already started to try and do a bit more with the voice.
Yeah.
So it was kind of, it was like baby steps to the Icon album, and then the voice changed. There was no more gruff for quite a while after that. So yeah, I mean, it's nice to kind of do more with with the voice, and then, but I mean, you learn what you can and can't do, over the space of sort of 15 years.
Yeah. You said the key to death metal singing is you've got to sing quietly. Can you explain this? Because I'm really interested in how you manage to keep it up. It's quite aggressive. So is this really the trick to it? Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's. When I talk like I'm talking now, I actually talk a lot louder than I would do vocals. I mean, I don't know many death metal vocalists that sing loud. Most of them are quite quiet. When they actually do what they do. If you mix correctly, then you can do very kind of guttural voice without much projection. But a lot of the time, you can't really hear yourself. So I mean, in-ear monitors is a real good thing to have. Yeah, of course. So you can hear what you're doing. But you don't really need to. When I first started doing it, I would actually bellow, and then you just blow your throat out, and you can't do anything. It's easy to kind of think that it's all about shouting, and it's not at all. You can kind of do it. And when I say quiet, people just sort of imagine a whisper. It's obviously not a whisper, but it's you don't shout like you're in a nightclub on a Saturday night. You let the microphone do the work. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And did you feel any pressure to emulate, say, one of Bloodbath's ex-singers like Peter Tagtron's vocals, or was it always your style from the start? It's my style. I mean, I can't do what they do anyway, so I try and keep the songs as close to the recorded versions, as in like the phrasing and what have you. But I mean, yeah, they both, Mike and Peter, both get their own way of doing things. And I mean, those super long screams that Peter Tagtron does, there's no way I wouldn't even attempt to do that. Right. I can believe that. I can understand that. I think you've touched on this, but tell me what I can only believe is a vast chasm of difference between being in PL and Bloodbath. How do you approach each band, or is it different or the same? I mean, you kind of touched on it earlier, but is it the same kind of, different hats for different things, or? It sort of is, but I mean, when you're out there at gigs, it's the same thing. You just want everything to be right on the stage, and you just want to do the songs the best justice you can for the time you got on stage. I mean, with Bloodbath, it's more about festivals, so you don't always get a sound check. There's a lot more chaos potentially. I mean, when you're on tour, you can sound check, you can make sure everything's going to be all right prior to putting the stage, But I mean, with PL, when we do festivals, it's the same thing. It's just, it can be chaotic. You don't get sound checks. You don't always get the things that you want to hear in your ears. And so, I mean, it doesn't really matter, music aside, it's the same thing, really, I understand. Now, I think you cited Kronos from Venom as an early influence, and you've cited some of your other early influences as well. But what's the most extreme music you've ever heard and you thought, wow, that's like too much?
I mean, the first time I heard Napalm Death, I mean, I didn't think it was too much, but it made me smile because it was just so insane. You know, I mean, the blast beats, which everyone went on to copy, you know, obviously, they were just insane. I mean, I remember just laughing when I got the Scum album. It was so insane that it did make me laugh at the extremity of it. And I think also Extreme Noise Terror as well. That when I heard the song Murder, the singing is just berserk, you know. Just I remember hearing it thinking this is fucking amazing. So yeah, I think, you know, it was probably the UK hardcore thing, which we really got into as well, you know, back in the early 90s as well. We late 80s, early 90s, we loved all that stuff. So I mean, yeah, I guess Extreme Noise Terror and the first Napalm stuff, you know. Yeah.
Now onto the shows. What's on the agenda for Bloodbath tour-wise? I know you've got an extensive Paradise Lost tour coming up. So anything after that for Bloodbath, or are you sticking just to festivals?
We'll probably just. I mean, we've got a festival in Mexico next week, which I'm looking forward to. That should we go? We're kind of flying and then fly straight out the next day, which a lot of time on an airplane. And then after that, I mean, I think we're just doing festivals, as many as we can kind of get under our belts, really. It would be nice to go back to America, which has kind of kept going wrong for us the last few years. So.
Yeah, what happened? You had some visa issues, I read, early this year. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, we don't know exactly what it was, but we just didn't get the visas back in time, and everyone just presumes that we didn't apply for them in good time, which we did. I mean, we applied for them in very good time. I don't know if it was anything to do with the lockdown, or I don't know what it was, or applying from different countries. We just don't know. It was just bad luck. But hopefully we can resolve that and do some shows over there. But we're not planning on doing any big tours, just some kind of key shows perhaps. But other than that, we'll just see where it takes us. But hopefully we can get some of the most of the metal festivals next year. You know,
is that because there's so many of you in different bands and just getting all the schedules, you know, to fit and the stars to align? It's near on impossible.
Yeah, I mean, Catatonic do a hell of a lot of touring, and PL's got a big one coming up. We just don't want to kind of do like 7 weeks back to back with two bands. You know, I mean, we want to just come home at some point. So, and I mean, it's also, it's the long touring. Like I said, I've done it in so many years ago, and you're away for like 18 months before you know it. You know, everything's. It's just not. It's good to come back home and sort of recharge the batteries. You know, I think it's good for you. It's good for your mind to kind of get a little bit. You know.
Now, it leads me on to ask, how do you approach gigs and tours nowadays to say 30 years ago? I mean, I can only imagine the difference, but I mean, it's obviously not as frantic as it would be when you were, say, you know, in your early 20s. So how do you approach it? Is it more about yoga and eating right now?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, you sort of eat as well as you can. And I mean, on a tour, you can. There's more. You know, you can kind of do things. There's more regularity with things. There's more, and especially with the venues we play, because we kind of played there many times, so we know everything that's around. And so we know where to go and blah blah. I mean, you just got to sort of look after yourself, really. I mean, it's okay having a kind of blowout with the booze occasionally, but I mean, I don't really. There's not a lot of drinking goes on these days. To be honest, it's quite a dry bus these days.
Really.
But it's it's just you just got to look after yourself and don't overdo things, and don't go to nightclubs. Don't go to pubs shouting. All the things that we've always done when we were kids.
I mean, how do you look after your voice on tour?
I just don't talk much. I just try and keep quiet as I can. You know, I just watch films or play video games or.
Does any fan or anyone go, "What an antisocial bastard! Just doesn't talk"?
Yeah, well, it is like that, really. But and especially if you feel your voice getting tired, I mean, you can tell when it's starting to get tired. Then I just kind of go absolutely quiet. I just stay. But I mean, I'm quite naturally a gobby person, so it's quite difficult to show up. So, I tend to have to kind of just watch the Sopranos box set or something.
Yeah, I got you. And what countries haven't you played that you want to play? That I'm sure you've played so many places, so many countries, so many fantastic cities in that. Where do you want to play? You've never been to?
It'd be nice to go to South Africa. I've been there personally. I went for vacation, but it'd be nice to play there. We almost had quite a few chances, but it never seemed to happen. We haven't played in China. I'm just trying to think where else we haven't played. We've kind of been to a lot of places. Greenland, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Have you played Iceland?
I'm not sure. So, yeah, we did Iceland. Yeah, we did the far side. We didn't do the Reykjavik side. We did the other side of the the other side. I forgot the name of the festival, but that was great. It was really. It's always nice to go to places you haven't been before. It's always really exciting. But yeah, I mean, South Africa is the one that I'm surprised we've never sort of been there. So that would be fun to do.
Here's another one carrying on from that. Who has the best fans, or where's your favourite place to play for culture, food and drink? You think, oh God, we've got Barcelona on that. They have brilliant beer, or they have great tapas bar. Where's the one place you go, yes, we're doing that area?
Oh, I don't know. It's hard to say really, because I don't know. I like. I have no kind of specific place. It's kind of boring answer, but I can't. There's kind of nowhere really. When we play Israel, we always get really well fed there. There's food's always great in Israel. I always look forward to that.
Yeah.
But the guy who looks after us, he always makes sure that we kind of go back weighing about 3-4 pounds more than we did when we got to the place. So yeah, I mean, it's always we get very, but we're kind of at that age where we look forward to food, which is something else I never bothered about.
Of course. Sort of beer for food. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Last question for you. From your career, where's your happiest place in music? Is it with a pen and paper? Is it in the studio? Is it stage and touring?
I think writing. In my kind of home studio and writing songs and just kind of going backwards and forwards with songs and editing things to fit with words and just kind of putting the songs together, or working vocals into the songs. I mean, it's one of those things I can just do it for like 7 hours and I don't even know where the time went. It's just I just love that process. And then if everyone agrees it sounds great, then that's it's like a cherry on the top. So
that's your happy place.
Yeah, and it always has been really. I mean, and the rest kind of goes hand in hand with it, but it all starts with a good song. That's the most important part, really, I guess.
Of course. And nowadays, with all the internet, everything, when you release something, do you go looking for quotes or comments? Do you read reviews, or do you just kind of block it out?
No, I read reviews. Yeah, I mean, definitely. It's good and bad. But I mean, if someone's saying something negative, it's got to be constructive. If someone just thinks something shit, then that's fine.
Yeah. I understand.
I mean, anyone can say that. It's like, but yeah. I mean, constructive criticism is always welcome. But yeah, I mean, it's easy to read reviews. You're just going to click a few bullets and you're there, aren't you? But
of course.
Yeah. Everyone kind of wants to know what people think about what they're doing. I think he's kind of a bit naive to say that people don't care what people think. I mean, everyone cares what people think.
Yeah, of course. And finally, give me a track to play next from the new album.
Putrefying Corpse.
Doing it. Nick, thanks so much for joining on the show. It's a total pleasure, mate.
Cheers, man. Good to speak to you. Thanks.